If you're watching this video, you're probably a user of Claude or you're still trying to decide which AI is actually worth paying for. And today, I want to explain why I think ChatGPT is a much better choice. A few months ago, the gap between ChatGPT and Claude was much wider. Claude had more features, and its models genuinely felt smarter. But over the past few weeks, ChatGPT has caught up on level of intelligence and added so many features that became much harder to ignore. And for some context, I run my own AI automation agency and have built countless automations for clients ranging from simple email workflows to complex proposal generation systems. So I use these tools every day for actual work. And in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly why ChatGPT has become a go-to tool, the areas where I think it now beats Claude, and give you live demonstrations of the features that changed my mind. That includes one of the most useful and underused feature in ChatGPT, image generation, which lets you generate images and assets directly inside the same chat without having to pay for tools like Higgsfield. I'll also show you where Claude might still have a slight advantage. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So what is the main problem with Claude? For a long time, the main argument for choosing Claude was that it was smarter, especially for coding. But current benchmarks show that advantage has basically disappeared. And if you can only pay for one AI subscription, a few benchmark points should not decide where your money goes. The better question is, how much work can you actually get done before hitting your usage limit, getting charged extra to use best models, or having to open another app just to generate an image? And this is where Claude becomes much harder to justify. Claude's usage limits are such a common pain point that there are countless of videos teaching people how to squeeze more out of their subscription. And it gets even worse. Even if you pay $20 a month for Claude Pro, Fable 5, the newest and most capable model, is still not included in your subscription. Think about that. You're paying for a premium AI subscription, but instead of thinking about the work, you're constantly thinking about tokens, context, which model you should use, and how long you have until limits resets. And the usage isn't the only problem. Claude can build decks, prototypes, diagrams, and other coded visuals, but still doesn't natively generate images. ChatGPT, on the other hand, can generate those images and assets while you're building a website, presentation, or a carousel, then use them directly inside the thing it is creating. You don't have to stop, open Higgsfield, generate everything separately, download the files, upload them again, and then continue working. And at the same time, most of the features that I used to use Claude for now have the equivalents inside ChatGPT. So firstly, where ChatGPT is ahead of every other AI company is their image generation. But most people don't quite realize the full potential of having that inside ChatGPT app. It gives you a lot of possibilities that would not be possible by default in Claude without paying for extra subscription to generate images. For example, when you're building a website, you can ask ChatGPT to generate assets or images to put on your website, which will make your website stand out and not look like a boring AI slop. So in here, I asked ChatGPT to generate me a marketing website for my app called Oz, which is AI content system, and asked to also generate images for hero and a couple of sections. As you can see here, it generated me multiple images to put on my website. And here's the hero image, there's a section 1 and section 2. But the cool thing is I can keep generating more images and tweaking them until I'm happy with the result. And it's a huge unlock because now not only I'm saving money, I also don't have to leave the app to fully complete the task. And another insane use case for image generation is automating Instagram carousels inside the app. For example, I built this carousel that got nearly 500,000 views on Instagram purely inside this ChatGPT. As you can see here, I went through multiple iterations. I asked it to generate images, and that was quite a lengthy process, but I fully automated inside ChatGPT. And if you're interested to learn how I make these carousels, I also made a full tutorial breaking down right here. Image generation doesn't just end here. You can also use them to generate images to put inside your presentations, slide decks, apps, literally anything you are building. This is why I think ChatGPT images are so underrated. You can create assets and put them directly inside your work without ever leaving the app. And now that we made the website, I'm going to show you the second best feature. Once I have ChatGPT app installed on my computer, I don't physically have to be next to my laptop to control it. And I can open ChatGPT app on my phone and remotely access all my files and projects from it. So inside your phone, go to the remote tab, connect it to your laptop, and you can see all your chats in here. But the craziest thing is I can now use voice mode to literally control all my projects, and let me show it to you. I'm going to make a small change to the website I just showed you earlier. I'm going to press this voice icon.
Hey there, what's up?
We were building Marketing Oz website for my AI content system, and I want you to change the copy of the hero from your best content shouldn't depend on your best day to you run the business, Oz runs the content. Can you please make that change to copy on the hero page?
Sure, let me take a look. I'll get that hero copy updated. 1 sec. I sent the update to the build task. You run the business, OS runs the content.
As you can see here that it sent a request to the correct chat and it gave it the exact prompt. So now we just have to wait for the hero to update. And just like that, as you can see here, it changed the copy of the hero as I requested it. And then now it's using the skill to verify that's actually correct. So if I was still on my voice mode, it would update me saying like, hey, the change has been made, and I can ask it to send me screenshots or verify it's actually implemented. And voice controlling all my AI agents and projects literally changed how I work, because I'm no longer tied to my desk or my laptop. I can just leave my laptop at home, go for a walk, and finally touch some grass while building apps, replying to emails, and doing content research. And this works beyond just one conversation. It has access to all your chats inside ChatGPT app, so it has a full context awareness. Plus, it can also start new chats, for example, building a new website or making a new automation. Claude has something similar called Dispatch, and it connects your phone to Claude on your computer. But Dispatch does not have a voice mode, so you're stuck typing and manually approving things, but also dispatches use one continuous thread, which means you can't manage several different chats or projects. You're stuck waiting for one to complete. Meanwhile, Codex shows you live state across all your tasks on your computer. Now moving on to the big features that both apps have in common. For a long time, Claude was the only AI that had cowork. And if you don't know what cowork is, for example, if a normal chat is where you ask quick questions, brainstorm or research, then cowork is for longer tasks where you want a finished document, spreadsheet or a report or a website. And then on desktop, you can actually make changes to files in your local folder. Now ChatGPT also has cowork and it's called ChatGPT Work. So to get into work, you create a new chat and there's a tab switch at the top. You click work and then you can create or select your project. So I create new project, type the name, add your folder in here, and it's done. And then Claude is exactly the same thing. Just switch the cowork tab, create a new project or select one existing, add the files, name it, and it's done. Now moving on to the projects, both ChatGPT and Claude have projects and they work exactly the same way. So in ChatGPT, click on the Projects tab, press the plus button, and you can select Cloud or Local folder. Cloud means it will work anywhere like your browser, and all the files will be stored on the server online. And Local means that will only work on your computer and all the files stays on your computer. Then select any, give it a name and the files you want to attach, and then click Create. And in Claude is exactly the same thing. Click New Project, give it a name, attach files in the folder, and create the project. Now let's talk about coding. ChatGPT also has equivalent of Claude Code and it's called Codex. So to go to ChatGPT, click on ChatGPT and switch to Codex. Create a new project or select one existing and you're good to go. So both Codex and Claude Code works in exactly the same way. So if you're used to working in Claude Code, switching to Codex will feel like zero resistance. For context, I've been using Claude Code for over the year, but now I actually prefer to use current Codex app. I think they're both equally capable, so this part is a personal preference. For me, Codex just feels way simpler and cleaner, especially when there's multiple projects running at once, and in my experience has been way less buggy than Claude Code. And the only real way to run Claude Code is inside VS Code, but when I use Codex, I never really have to leave the app. Claude also used to have a strong advantage because it was the first AI to introduce skills. And with skills, you can package instructions, examples, files, and scripts so the AI can repeat the process without you reprompting and giving context every single time. And now Codex supports skills and it works in exactly the same way. For example, I ask Codex to create a skill that generates LinkedIn infographics, like this one, and if I want to use the skill, I can simply type /LinkedIn infographics, and if I click on the skill, I can actually see the full breakdown of what it does. You can also install Claude skills inside Codex. Just ask it to install it from URL or give it the file and it'll just do the rest. And if you want to see all your skills, just go into plugins on the left hand side, then change to skills on the top and you'll see the full list. Then there are automations and schedule tasks. Both Codex and Claude can run a skill or some sort of instructions on schedule. As you can see here, the interface is almost identical and they literally do the same thing. So skills and schedule automations are no longer advantages that Claude has. There are a lot more smaller features that they both have in common, so I'm just going to list the main ones. They both have connectors, MCPs, voice, schedule tasks, browser control, interactive outputs, record a skill. ChatGPT has apps, plugins, canvas, sites, which is equivalent in Claude is connectors, plugins, artifacts, live artifacts. Both have browser control, which is ability to use browser for automations. Claude browser control is done through Chrome extension, and ChatGPT has their own built-in browser inside Work and Codex, so I gave them both tasks to browse Reddit and find funny posts. As you can see here, on the left-hand side, we have Claude is scrolling, analyzing the content. One thing I do have to say is that having inbuilt ChatGPT browser is very handy, since I don't have to leave the app to check on the work. Unlike in Claude, I constantly have to switch the windows. For example, there's a Claude and I have to go back to Chrome. Maybe like 6 months ago, most of these features were pretty much exclusive to Claude, but now ChatGPT has their own version of all of them, and some are even better. So Claude's old feature advantage has mostly disappeared. So let's talk about pricing and money. Claude Pro and ChatGPT Plus both cost $20 a month, and higher plans like Claude Max and ChatGPT Pro, that gives you 5 times more usage, starting $100 a month. So I currently pay for both ChatGPT Pro and Claude 5 times Max plan, but last week I swapped all my work onto ChatGPT and it shocked me because it gave me more usage than Claude while costing 5 times cheaper. Thanks to weekly usage resets that you can use anytime before they expire. I know this isn't like a universal benchmark, but it's just my personal experience. And the limits depend on model, files, context, and your workflow, and so on. But I know for sure which product gives me more anxiety about the usage, and it's Claude. And the whole Fable situation makes it even worse. So on Claude Pro, Fable 5 doesn't even come with your subscription, so you have to pay separately to use it. And on Claude Max plan, it is included up to 50% of your weekly allowance, which consumes the overall usage faster. But ChatGPT felt borderline limitless. I've been using it every day on the most expensive model, and I still feel comfortable with my weekly usage. But what's more important, I can move from idea to execution much faster without worrying about usage limits or paying for more than one subscription. And that's what better value means to me. So after using both Claude and ChatGPT for a while, this is where I land. On raw intelligence, Claude wins by a small margin, all due to Fable 5. And Opus 5, even though on paper it's smarter, in practice, ChatGPT 5.6 Sol is much easier to understand and it doesn't blow you with a wall of text. But Opus 5 is still better model for 3D and graphics. On live artifacts, Claude also wins. It's just very easy and straightforward way to use. You can make a prototype, click share, and the link is there. Meanwhile, ChatGPT has canvas, previews, and sites, but Claude's version still feels more natural to me. Those are two clear aspects where Claude wins. On image generation, ChatGPT wins easily. On overall app experience, ChatGPT wins for how clean and smooth the app is. On coding workflow, I prefer Codex because everything is in one place. I don't have to open VS Code or any other apps. On mobile or remote control, ChatGPT wins because I can move across several live Codex tasks and most importantly, use my voice to control everything like Jarvis. On projects, skills, schedule work, browser control, and integrations, they're literally the same. So for overall value, ChatGPT gives you a lot more for your dollar than Claude does. And there's only one practical objection left. What happens to all the context you already built inside Claude? The good news is that you don't have to rebuild everything manually. Go inside the Claude, paste this prompt, and after a while it will give you output. Copy this output and paste it inside ChatGPT. Also inside ChatGPT, go into settings, click import, and then you can import all your skills from Claude and Cowork by simply clicking import button. So those are some of the reasons why I recommend if you're using Claude and have been for a while, you should consider making the switch over to ChatGPT. They're making new features and updates very often, and I'm going to keep you up to date on the channel with how I'm using it. I also do some content on Claude as well because it's something I genuinely do leverage, just nowhere near as much as I'm using ChatGPT at the moment. Make sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.